In the summer of 2024, I decided to embark on my dream motorcycle trip. Ever since I purchased an adventure bike back in 2011, I had always wanted to do a trip to the Arctic Ocean and Prudhoe Bay. This is the story of that trip and all the things that went right and the things that didn't go so great. Of course, any good trip starts with planning, and the first order of business was to pick the motorcycle that I would be riding to the Arctic Ocean. I decided to go with an Africa Twin DCT model, as I had had two Africa Twins before and found them incredibly reliable.
Right over my helmet, I'm about 6'1". This is in the medium position, so it could even go up higher. Really love this, nice addition.
And I wanted something that was going to be reliable because I knew there were going to be really remote areas where you could get stranded, and I didn't want to risk having some type of breakdown in the middle of nowhere. Even though I had a KTM 790 Adventure, a bike which I really loved, I just did not trust that bike enough to take it for an almost 8,000 mile journey. Once the bike was purchased, the next step was to get the proper miles on it, the break-in service, and put some tires on it. I decided to go with the Motaz GPS Tractionators at the advice of some people online who had done the exact trip that I was about to do. I outfitted it with a new windshield to give more coverage and made a few other modifications such as new foot pegs, and I ended up putting some Moscow Moto backcountry panniers on there. My first ever soft pannier bags I've ever owned.
So those are the Moscow Moto backcountry panniers, 35 liter on both sides. Super easy to mount and install.
Now that I chose the bike and put the necessary upgrades on it, I was ready to choose the gear that I would be taking.
All right, let's get started here. The first thing is, this is a tripod, a kind of extending selfie.
I really wanted to take my laptop on this trip, which I had never done before, so I could edit some videos along the way.
First item is a charging brick. It's got all the cables here.
It's always a tough choice because you only have some limited space.
Charge anything if you run out of batteries. It's a great thing to keep in my tank bag in case any of my cameras or anything run out of batteries. So these are the Cassiar Adventure.
This is the first trip that I had 3 friends going with me who were driving in a car because they wanted to do the exact same trip I was, but they didn't know how to ride a motorcycle, so they decided to drive so I could take some extra things along. More on that later, as that would be a decision that would come back to haunt me in the end. It's always difficult to travel with a car and a motorcycle, especially with 3 people who don't really understand long days on a motorcycle and timelines, etc. The other issue was that I had just crashed my KTM 790 5 weeks before the trip and had suffered 3 fractured ribs, so I didn't know if I was going to be able to make the trip. So my friends decided to trailer the bike all the way from Arizona to Seattle so I wouldn't have to start out doing 500-mile days and I could more ease into the trip. I think that was a good decision in retrospect. However, I really wish I could have ridden the whole way, looking back on it. The bike arrived in Seattle and only had a few marks on it, as my friends had decided to go ziplining and take my motorcycle that was brand new with only 700 miles on it and go down a very rough dirt road. And the bike, unfortunately, tipped over and had some markings on the side of the crash bars. Thankfully, nothing too damaging, but still not a great way to start the trip with a dinged up bike that you just spent $20,000 on.
In front of me, but I'm pretty sure it goes something like that. Well, the border crossing was uneventful, thankfully. The last time I had a border crossing did not go so well. There was a red light, and I thought the red light meant stop at the window, but the red light meant stop at the red light, and the guy shooed me out. So that was not fun, and definitely left me a little bit flustered rolling into Canada. Gotta love that.
My first day was pretty uneventful other than fighting Seattle traffic, and ended up that night in Cache Creek, BC. It was a wonderful ride with amazing canyons as you descend into the Cache Creek area. It was becoming quickly apparent that there were 4 strong personalities on this trip, and each had their own agenda. And I knew that this might be a problem moving forward. But I decided to press on.
So this is reality of traveling with 4 people. I'm ready to go, they're not. I don't even know what they're doing in there, but it's just part of the deal. I'm ready to go, go, go. And they're browsing collectibles or precious moments or something.
We had a stop in Prince George that was not a great attraction city in my book. And then we went on to Smithers, and that was where the scenery started to get interesting.
In plain sight, all alone, I think it's time for me to go, burn all bridges, all I know, where I belong. Look at me, mama, what I become.
From Smithers, we had a long ride all the way to Dease Lake. And I really wanted to stop in Stewart, BC at the recommendation of my friend Steve, who had been there before. So I decided to take the detour, even though it meant for an 11-hour day, and some of it was in rain.
All right, so I decided to go to Stewart, Even though it's a little drizzly, you only live once, right? Pretty sweet in all its glory.
It was well worth the detour at the end of the day, and I'm glad I did it.
The pavement's in
And
pretty good shape.
I did arrive
except for
finally,
that.
not without a few scary
Some loose
moments
gravel,
on some
some
unexpected
highway
gravel.
resurfacing going on apparently. I will say the one thing they have here. Whoa. 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 Boy, they said loose gravel. They weren't kidding. The one thing they have here that I don't like is those metal bridges. So when you go over them, it's your front wheel shakes and whatnot. And it's just unnerving.
Since accommodations were scarce, we had another long day after Dease Lake, and we were going to go all the way to Whitehorse, which was another 10 or 11 hour day. However, the beautiful Cassiar Highway made the ride a little bit more bearable. But by the time I got into Whitehorse, I was completely wiped out and looking forward to some shorter days in the future.
Your wheels kind of move underneath you. Just a little shake. And even when it's wet, I would imagine that would be even worse. Well, I made it finally to Dease Lake. Had a 16 mile gravel road at the end that got a little sketchy in places, nothing crazy. The bike made it, a little bit dirty. We are entering Whitehorse. Yay. Wow, that was a day. 10 hours from the time we left our cabin in Dease Lake to pulling into Whitehorse. That was a beast of a day.
And she's talking about.
Well, we got to the top of Great Mountain and now we're heading down. Looks like a little weather's rolling in.
The next few days were definitely shorter days. However, from Whitehorse to Beaver Creek had large and long gravel patches that were not fun or pleasant and demanded your concentration. However, there was a beautiful lake called Kluane Lake that was absolutely insanely glass-like when we arrived, and so I decided to fly my drone and take some amazing shots over the lake.
Kluane Lake, and it is spectacular. Look at that reflection. This water's like glass. I've never seen anything like it. It's so clear and so still. Perfect for paddleboarding. We are officially in Alaska and on our first hike in Alaska. Hiked up to an overlook point, which was beautiful. There's a fire nearby, but not affecting us at this point, thankfully. Tomorrow we roll to Fairbanks, which is right at the doorstep of the Dalton Highway, which is at the doorstep of the Arctic Ocean. We're at Beaver Creek, and just at the doorstep of Alaska, About a 5.5 hour day and really cool scenery along the way. Stopped at Haynes Junction and a really cool lake, and I got some really nice drone footage. And so nice day. There are a lot of gravel patches in and out coming here, which I don't know, it seemed like every 100 yards there was another gravel patch for a while. So apparently there's a lot of damage to the road. So a little bit stressful riding on that.
From here, it was just a short jaunt up to Fairbanks, and that would be right at the stepping stone of the Dalton Highway, which was my goal. The Dalton I knew was going to be super challenging for me, as I had read about it, and demanded immense concentration.
All right, this is the 700 yards of hell that I've been warned about. For whatever reason, they lay down this wet mud, and I have no idea why. I'm sure there's a reason for it, I just don't know what it is. But it's not really great for bikers. You just gotta pick a spot that looks good and go with it. But it is slick as snot.
And I knew the conditions were going to be unexpected and treacherous at times. The hardest thing was the changing conditions from hard-packed dirt to gravel to mud, and you never knew when one was going to change. So you get in a comfortable groove, and then all of a sudden your front wheel starts wobbling because you're in some gravel. I was very focused the night before and knew I had to be on my A game to complete this really long, challenging section of dirt. Thankfully, I arrived safely at Coldfoot Camp, but not before a stop at the famous Arctic Circle sign. Coldfoot Camp was a welcome destination after a long day on the bike and almost laying it down at least a half a dozen times. At this point, I was doubting whether I could really make the entire trip, as it was supposed to rain all night and most of the morning the next day. I didn't know if I could handle the conditions, as I knew I had to go over Atagun Pass and really didn't want to do that in the rain. However, the next morning I just decided to try it anyways. Thankfully, by the time I got to the pass, it had cleared up and offered some really beautiful views of Atagun Pass. After the pass, it was a straight shot to Prudhoe Bay, and we saw some muskox along the way, and it really turned into this really cool open tundra unlike I had ever seen before. Once we arrived at Prudhoe, the hardest thing was finding the very famous wall that has all the stickers all over it and has the famous sign that you have completed the Dalton Highway.
All right. Well, here it is. The famous sign. Dead Horse. End of the Dalton Highway. The northernmost drivable road in the world. And it's cold. It's 39 degrees, super windy.
Along the way, there had been a rock that hit the back of Caroline's car, so she had to put some plastic over the back window. I ran into a few fellow riders who were from Colorado and doing the same ride, and it was great to talk to some people who actually understood the whole motorcycling part and how difficult that was.
And it's hazardous. It's treacherous. And you transition from a short, brief pavement to loose gravel to packed dirt with gravel on top of it, and that's all while going 50. And you can't slow down fast enough. You can't really discern the good parts from the bad parts. I noticed that the road pavement, or I should say the road surface, and the shoulder, even when they have a compact, you can't tell the difference, because it's made from the same compound, so that you really can't tell where the shoulder is And like any time, the loose gravel's on the shoulder, it'll suck you right in. Anybody that rides a motorcycle knows what that means.
Decided to go on the Arctic Ocean trip the next morning, and it was about 33 degrees outside, and the water was about the same temperature. I had not anticipated the air being that cold, although I figured the water was going to be cold as the ice had just broken up a couple weeks prior to us being there.
Woo! Oh, that's cold. That is cold. All right. Holy sh! Are you numb? Are you numb at all? Oh my God. Woo! Oh, fuck. Oh, dude. I can't feel my legs. Holy sh! Oh my God.
It definitely was worth the tour, and I would recommend it for anybody doing this trip, as you get to
I can't
see
feel my legs.
a little bit of a history and how Prudhoe Bay came to fruition and how long it's supposed to endure in the future, which is not that much longer. And you got a little lesson on the Alaska pipeline, which was pretty much in view the entire way up on the Dalton. After taking a very quick dip into the Arctic Ocean, it was time to get a good night's rest and prepare for the journey back. It started out pretty smooth sailing, but as we approached Adigan Pass, I saw storm clouds hovering over the pass, and I knew that was bad news. I didn't mind the rain, but I just wish it hadn't rained when I was going right over that pass, because it made it super sketchy. Thankfully, I somehow navigated that, and I would say that that was probably the sketchiest I've ever ridden on a motorcycle in my life, was over that pass in the pouring rain. and water streaming down. We made it back to Coldfoot Camp for the night, and I knew I just had that one final stretch left before completion. This had been the hardest stretch on the way up, and I didn't really know how hard it was going to be on the way back, but it actually turned out to be probably the easiest stretch on the way back, because there was no mud being laid down on the road as construction workers were, quote, fixing the road as they lay a 2-inch thick layer, which makes traveling extremely difficult. But had no such luck on the way back, and it was just hard packed dry pavement for the most part.
All right, we are on our way to Fairbanks. This will be the last section of the Dalton Highway, and I'm okay with that. And this has so far been the hardest section, other than going over that crazy pass after a huge thunderstorm, which somehow I made it up and over. Still not sure exactly how, but so I'm wondering, is this section going to be easier the second time? Lots of potholes, lots of unpredictable terrain, and of course there's the dreaded, got a little bit of pavement to start, but not much. The dreaded resurfacing, where it's just super thick mud. So we're gonna see, we'll have some nice scenery. Nothing like that pass, that mountain pass was spectacular, even though it was super sketchy on the bike. But tonight we'll land in Fairbanks. We'll actually spend a couple of nights.
And I finally arrived back at the Dalton Highway sign and took a little celebratory video and picture.
Well, successful 470 something miles in the books to Prudhoe Bay and back. Fulfilled a bucket list item for sure, a lifelong dream. Ever since I've been riding motorcycles, I wanted to do this. And I did it. Didn't lay the bike down once, came close a lot of times. And that sketchy up and over Adigan Pass was one of the craziest moments I've ever had on a motorcycle. But close to Fairbanks, and this is the end of a little chapter. And I'm going to go to the room, check in, and have a nice shower, because it's been a minute. TMI, I get it, but just saying. That was an adventurous 4 days as I've ever had.
That night, I had a talk with Caroline. I just told her I was going to go my own way on the way back. She understood, and they went off and went down to the Kenai Peninsula, and I went off to McCarthy, which I had heard from my friend Steve. It was an amazing place. that McCarthy had a 56-mile dirt/gravel road to get there, and I was kind of done with dirt and gravel by that point. But McCarthy did not disappoint. It was the first time that I actually got to walk on a glacier, and that was really rewarding and scenic, and got to fly my drone.
Well, we are entering McCarthy, and lucky me, I get 40 miles more of gravel/dirt road. Just what I wanted after doing the Dalton. My friend Steve said, hey, you know, tour buses go down. This is a really nice gravel road. I don't know if I'd agree. The washboarded out. Yeah, it's nicer in the Dalton in some ways, but it's still not a lot of fun, especially after riding all day long. Doing, you know, I left at 8 a.m. It's now 4, and now have to finish like this. That is not fun.
The fact that it had rained that morning actually made the glacier a little bluer in color, which was kind of good timing.
If you ever wondered what it's like walking on a glacier, now you don't have to wonder anymore. Just like walking on a big sheet of ice. Duh, right? But the colors are really, really cool. Kind of got some of the bands, whatever they're called, striations. I'm just going to keep making up words. But it's otherworldly, for sure. Really, really cool.
Unfortunately, my phone had gotten wet and was kind of fritzing out at this point. So I didn't really have a working phone for the entire time I was in McCarthy, and had to wait until I got back to Whitehorse to get a new phone, which I did.
Let's hope I don't hit the people. That would not be good. Thank you. just spectacular, unbelievable, all the things you can say. So, gonna eat at the Mitza Wagon here in Kennecott, and then probably back to the cabin and start packing up for tomorrow's adventure, which looks like it's back to Tok tomorrow, and kind of slowly making my way back to the border, which is going to take a while, and probably going to hit the Jasper, Banff area on the way back.
I decided that I wanted to take a different route home, so not to retrace all of my steps. So after Whitehorse, I decided to go to this really cool little small town called Muncho Lake. Muncho Lake was a good 400 miles from Whitehorse, so I knew it was going to be a long day. But I saw many bears on the way, which was really cool, and some bison on the side of the road as well. This was probably one of the most scenic drives I had the entire trip, and saw the most wildlife.
Good early morning to everybody. It's a 6:30 a.m., 6:25 a.m. to be exact. Start. Got a long, not even in terms of miles, but hours today. 386 miles. Not terrible, but the road is slow going. And I'm leaving Tok. I think I originally pronounced it Tok, and it's not. It's Tok. And I'm headed to Whitehorse today, through some pretty crazy gravel roads, construction. Got to cross back into Canada today, so that'll be hopefully a easy experience. It seems to be much easier coming back into the US than going into Canada. Maybe it's because I'm not Canadian.
been a pretty eventful ride, I would say. Went across the border, and I don't know if they went to lunch. We sat there for half an hour, and there was just nobody in the booth until finally somebody showed up. And the guy was actually super cool, and he apologized for making me wait in the hot sun, which it really wasn't that hot, but he was very polite. It was pleasant, not like some of my other experiences coming into Canada.
Muncho Lake was a beautiful lake, and the next morning there were clouds hovering, and it made for some amazing drone flying to capture some scenery.
We're going to go over this bridge here. Very long metal graded bridge. Just kind of makes your front wheel shimmy a little bit, which is unnerving, and you can see right through it. This is Teslin, and here we go. Woo! Man, that is like unnerving. I'm gonna stand up. It is freaky. Holy cow. Almost there. You can see the bike's just kind of moving. I'm glad it's not wet. That's all I have to say.
So this is the famous collection of signs in Watson Lake. I'm not really sure how this got started, but it is pretty interesting and unique. Wow, so cool. So different. I think this is what Watson Lake is famous for, Centerburg, Ohio. I actually know where that is. I grew up very near that. That about wraps it up from Northern Rockies Lodge in Muncho Lake. Takes a cake for best accommodations thus far on the trip. You see the views from the lodge are amazing. Headed to Fort St. John today. Should be about another 7-hour day. Seems to be a theme lately.
This is Muncho Lake, and I think we're still in BC. Headed towards Fort St. John tonight.
All right, let's talk about today's ride. Today's ride sucked. And you're going to have that when you're on an adventure. Started out in Muncho Lake, kind of rainy, but kind of pretty through the canyon there. Saw moose, that was cool.
Alright, I'm circling back because I just went past the moose. And there he is. Alright. He was standing right on the side of the road when I first passed.
And then started to rain more and more. And then I got to Fort Nelson and it was 230 miles of rain. Non-stop. Didn't pass over, didn't let up. It was hardcore 230 miles of rain. 5 hours. And I'm chilled to the bone, which is not fun. But that's part of the adventure. Really the first bad riding day out of this whole trip, and I'm at the 3-week mark today. I'm at Wilcox Pass with this spectacular view in the background. Beautiful weather. I'm with the other member of the Africa Twin Extreme Team, Mike. Mike, say hi. Mike doesn't say a lot, but he's enjoying this. I've been up here several times. This is the best weather day, even though it's a little windy. The sun is just lighting up the glacier and lighting up all the peaks around it. So can't wait to get to the top.
Next day was an easier 330 some miles over to Hinton. Hinton is at the doorstep of all of the wonderful scenery in the Banff area. And I had heard about the fire in Jasper and wanted to see it for myself, but it definitely was very, very burned up, and I didn't bother going into the town. I was feeling pretty road weary by this point, so I really wanted to do a hike. So I stopped and did a hike that I had done 3 or 4 times before that never disappoints, called Wilcox Pass. It ends up right near an amazing glacier, and you can get a picture that looks like you're right next to the glacier. Hinton was a pretty uneventful town. The hike never disappoints, and it certainly didn't on this day, as I had the clearest skies that I've ever had when I've done this hike. Ended up staying that night in Golden and did another buzz down the Icefield Parkway, which I have been on many times on a motorcycle, and the weather decided to cooperate.
Well, we are leaving Hinton, Alberta, and going south today. In about 50 miles, we'll be hitting the town of Jasper, which is pretty infamous for its beauty and quaintness of the town. But also because last year a lot of the surrounding area, Jasper, burned, and the town. So we're going to be riding through that today, and then the famous Icefield Parkway.
Little did I know that Golden would be my last night in Canada, as I was informed that my dog was being picked up and dropped off back in Arizona on a Monday, and I had to be back by Tuesday, as my neighbor Tim was going to watch him until I got home. So I wanted to do another hike in Golden, but ended up eating a night's hotel room, unfortunately, and this is one of the reasons that I will never travel with other people, especially other people who don't ride a motorcycle, because they just have no concept of what it is like. So I won't make that mistake again. So I knew I had 2 very big days. So the first day I went from Golden all the way down to a little town where it's famous for a prison in Montana called Deer Lodge. Deer Lodge had an old-time prison that used to be a prison back in the day, and it was a really cool, quaint little town. But I knew I had a long day the next day, as I wanted to get all the way down to Salt Lake City, and I did not want to hit Salt Lake City traffic, as Salt Lake City is probably my least favorite big city to ride through. when there's a lot of traffic. I did manage to arrive in Salt Lake City and beat the traffic, and it was a pretty long day, close to 500 miles again, and I knew this was my last night of the trip. As I was sitting in my hotel room, I reflected on the journey that I had had, and it was just an amazing one and fulfilled a dream come true. I went through some of my favorite parts of Utah, including the Vermilion Cliffs area, as well as Panguitch and Kanab, where I used to work for 6 years, and enjoyed the ride home. The stark contrast between the big Canadian mountains and now these red, beautiful cliffs. Definitely had to fly my drone, as I have driven by these cliffs hundreds and hundreds of times, but this time I wanted to catch it even though it was 106 degrees out. I made it home and greeted my dog and thought about all the things that happened on the trip, both good and bad. In the end, it was 7,300 miles total that I had done starting from Seattle. My ribs were never a factor, thankfully, and I felt good that even though I had the accident before, that I still managed to do this dream trip. I would say that anybody who's thinking of doing this trip should definitely give it a shot. Just plan well, pack well, and always plan for things to go wrong and be prepared when they do. Thank you for watching this video, and please like and subscribe, and always remember to blaze your own path. I'll see you in the next one.